According to a popular XRP chart analyst, it looks like a big move is on the horizon. XRP is expected to drop further in price before finally hitting bottom, building a solid base, and then skyrocketing upwards. From there, it could enter price discovery mode, breaking new highs and taking everyone by surprise. So why the confidence? Well, don't worry, we'll break it all down in the video. But in short, the analyst points to the current chart pattern, which often leads to one last dip before a major breakout. Plus, there's a key factor he's watching: liquidity. By analyzing where liquidity sits on the charts, it gives us a clearer picture of what might be coming next. Often, when we're in similar situations, we see liquidity get tapped, prices dip lower, and then this is the key part. It's not all doom and gloom. This isn't some disaster scenario. No one's trying to scare anyone here. After those dips, we often see a strong move to the upside. Now, not everyone agrees on this. Some believe the bottom might already be in for many coins, but there doesn't seem to be overwhelming confidence from most analysts I follow. A few say it's possible the bottom is here now, but ideally we'd want to see more confirmation before jumping to conclusions. I'll share some insights from different analysts, but just keep in mind, it's totally plausible that more movement could still be ahead. We might see things dip a little lower before they finally take off, and that's totally okay. If it happens, no need to stress. Now, you're in the know. This kind of thing is pretty common in situations like this. So seriously, don't worry. Something would have to go way off track for us to sound the alarm, and that's not expected at all. If it does, we'll deal with it then. But honestly, I don't think things usually don't go completely off the rails to the point where we're like, oh no, we need a big reset here. So yeah, so I think we're probably in a good spot. Before we dive in though, I want to be up for, I don't have any kind of financial background. I'm not giving you financial advice, and you definitely shouldn't make any buying or selling decisions based on anything I say or write. I'm just a crypto enthusiast who loves making YouTube videos on the topic purely as a fun hobby. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's jump in. As I'm recording this, it's 11:33 IEM Central Time on Monday, June 23rd, 2025. Here's where things stand. XRP is sitting at $1.97, and Bitcoin has hit $100,209.00 over the past 24 hours. XRP's had a bit of a ride. It dropped as low as $1.92 according to Live CoinWatch, though some exchanges saw it dip even lower. On the upside, the 24-hour high was $2.03. Let me put it this way. I've been in the XRP game since 2017. And for most of that time, it's been sitting under 50 cents. Honestly, I think it's mostly hovered around 20, 30, maybe 40 cents. So yeah, hitting $2.00 feels like a big deal. The good news, it's heading in the right direction. The world is slowly but surely starting to realize the true value of XRP and what it brings to the table. Utility matters now more than ever, and I genuinely believe that. I get it. It takes time for people to catch on to what you and I already know. But here's the thing. If you're an XRP holder right now, as I'm recording this in June 2025, you're ahead of the curve. Seriously, kudos to you. There's this post from Crypto Insight UK where he talks about XRP and its liquidity. He mentions expecting liquidity around $1.87 and says $1.72 would be an amazing entry point, although he's not sure if we'll get there. He also points out how dense the liquidity above us become, and if we move up, it's going to be incredible. What I like is that he's not being overly negative here. Even if he believed we're in a bear market, there's nothing wrong with sharing your honest opinion. I'm all for diverse perspectives, but that's not what he's saying in this case. Check out the areas he's pointing out here. This is the pocket he's talking about. Around $1.87, then a bit lower at $1.72. He mentions it because you can see a hint of yellow in that range. There's not a ton though, so you can understand why he's feeling a little less confident. And down here, well, we'll see what happens. We already marked where the red was yesterday. So as always, just remember, it's not a sure thing. He's basically giving a heads up saying, hey, this could definitely happen. Someone named Clem asked him a really interesting question. Isn't there always high liquidity below the current ask, like stop losses and so on? How do you figure out when that liquidity is at a significant historical level that pulls the price lower? And doesn't this kind of analysis always point to a lower price? I thought that was a solid question. And Crypto Insight UK jumped in with a response. He said, well, yes and no. He explained that yes, there's often a liquidity tied to people's leverage positions, but most of the time, about 80% to be exact, Higher time frame bots push prices into areas where liquidity is more concentrated. Here's the kicker. When liquidity is taken out below, it actually makes the liquidity above start to build up or appear denser. That's why we often see price sweeping in both directions. It's just how the market plays out the majority of the time, around 80%, as you mentioned. This isn't a guarantee, but here's the thing. Let's be clear about this. Every analyst I've seen who talks about the possibility of XRP dropping lower, even below $1.90, agrees on one key point. This would actually be a good thing. Seriously, all of them, the analysts I follow at least, say that if the price dips, it creates the perfect chart setup. Why? Because that move would likely mark the bottom, setting the stage for a major breakout. That's why they're excited about it. It's not like they want XRP's price to drop. Of course not. They're pro XRP, but they understand what this would mean from a chart perspective. I've seen this idea supported by enough analysts that I'm fully on board with it. If XRP does dip lower, it could actually be fantastic news in the long run. If that happens, I'll definitely be cheering it on, not because I want my net worth to drop. XRP is actually my biggest crypto holding, but because it would make me feel more confident about what's coming next. With global liquidity trending upward and knowing that Bitcoin tends to follow that trend about 90% of the time, pulling the rest of the crypto market along with it, I'd honestly be thrilled. Super excited, actually. Here's an interesting post from chart analyst Mikey Bull Crypto about the Bitcoin USD chart. He's saying, it looks like an ABC correction has wrapped up and the next phase could be a new all-time high. Pretty exciting, right? Could we have just seen the bottom? Mikey seems to think so. Maybe he's onto something. You know who else has been talking about an ABC correction on the Bitcoin chart? The blockchain backer. He's one of the best chart analysts out there. And yes, that's my very humble but totally correct opinion. He shared a new video this morning that I checked out. It's called Bitcoin BC leg capitulation reversal. Watch altcoin market and XRP await confirmation. Definitely worth a watch if you're into crypto charts. Great stuff. If you haven't seen it yet, you should definitely check it out. Just a couple of thoughts I wanted to share. So the blockchain backer has been talking about this for months now. The C leg of the ABC correction, the big drop. And guess what? This is it. He's been saying all along that it was coming. We just didn't know what would trigger it. Now we know a major world event set it off, but honestly, it could have been anything. The thing is, this was always going to happen eventually. That's just how these things work. And if you've been following the market long enough, you'll know it too. If it wasn't this, something else would have triggered it. That's just how it goes. There are plenty of reasons for that, like liquidity being available and chart patterns naturally playing out. Honestly, anything can act as the spark. But here's the thing. It doesn't really matter what kicks things off. The charts are what actually matter way more than the news. I completely agree with that idea. It just makes sense. And I've seen it proven time and again. That said, he did point out something interesting. There's no big wave of retail traders jumping in right now. You know, he's been saying for months now that we'd see some kind of fear-based narrative pop up around the final C leg. Well, here we are. It's happening just like he predicted. It's interesting how these things take time to unfold, but now it's all playing out. That said, he's also pointed out that the C leg might not have hit bottom yet, so there could still be more to come. This ties in pretty well with what Crypto Insight UK has been saying, even though he was specifically talking about XRP. The market tends to move together, so this final dip might not be over yet. Typically in similar chart patterns, the bottom can go lower than what we've already seen, which is why he made that argument. Interestingly, in his latest video, he shared an example from 2024, about a year ago, where a C leg of this size on the Bitcoin chart actually marked a bottom. So it's possible we've already seen the worst of it, but right now there just isn't enough data for him to confidently say, yep, that was the bottom. Some people think we've already hit the bottom, others think we haven't. Then there are folks like the blockchain backer who are saying, let's wait and see, need more data. And that's totally fair. Time will tell. At the end of the day, it's up to you to decide what you think is most likely. Sharing some thoughts here. What do you think? There's a post from Casey Trades that I mentioned in my last video. I'll pop it up full screen here for a moment so you can pause and read it if you'd like, but I already covered it before, so I won't read through it again. The update she shared is straightforward, regardless of what's happening in the world. XRP is expected to hit a bottom at either $1.90 or $1.55. Now, if XRP does dip as low as $1.55, it'll likely be a quick wick. Super short-lived. Anyone who manages to snag some XRP at that level will probably be pretty happy because it's expected to bounce back quickly. Of course, nobody knows for sure, and I'm not pretending to, but that's what we'd anticipate given the likely demand above that level. Sometimes assets just get oversold, even on lower timeframes. And that's exactly what this scenario could look like. And honestly, Casey Trades has been spot on before, even with all the noise out there. She's one of the analysts I really trust to call these things accurately. Altcoin Gordon, a popular analyst with 776,000 followers on X, recently shared an interesting post about XRP. He posted a chart with the caption, "Many will ignore this wedge on XRP. By the time it breaks, the move will have been done, and they will be my exit liquidity. That's how this plays out." It might sound harsh, but honestly, it's just a realistic take. If you look at the chart, you can see how this wedge has been forming. This pattern dates back to January, and plenty of analysts have been pointing it out. Check out the decreasing range of volatility. It's pretty clear. Sure, there are some deviations like that spike around $1.61 a couple of months ago, but the trend is there. We've definitely seen some movement, but overall, XRP has stayed pretty steady within this wedge pattern. It's not going to stay here forever, though. It's going to break at some point. And honestly, since we're in a bull market, my guess is that when it does, it'll break to the upside. That's where I'd put my money. A fun little educated guess, if you will. On that note, a popular analyst, Alt Crypto Gyms, chimed in on this too. He's got a solid following of 477,000. And while I'm not super familiar with all his work, I've shared a couple of his posts before. He's not always focused on XRP, but he's definitely an XRP bull. He responded by saying this, "Crystal clear, the wedge isn't just a pattern, it's a trap door for the unaware. Play the game or be played." Love that take. It's straightforward and spot on. He seems pretty confident this thing is going to take off, and honestly, it feels obvious at this point. Of course, nobody knows for sure. As I always say this, no one knows for sure what's going to happen. It's all about looking at what's most likely. So why do you believe what you believe? What's making you lean in the direction you're leaning? I try my best to explain why I feel the way I do. Take XRP, for example. It's been undervalued for years, and now the market is finally starting to catch up. And wow, it definitely is. XRP has been the top performer among the top 100 coins since the election, leaving pretty much everything else in the crypto world in the dust. Just wait until this really takes off. Once we hit the second wave, things are going to get exciting. If you look at the last two cycles, there's always a big initial pump followed by about 6 months of sideways movement and consolidation. During that time, people start getting restless. Some lose patience and sell because they think it's not going anywhere. But here's the thing, history shows what happens next. After that lull, the next big move comes, and those who sold too early miss out. And we're not done here, not even close. The second pump is coming, and I'm confident it's just a matter of time. Here's an update from chart analyst Dark Defender from yesterday. In his post, he mentioned that the $1.88 support level he shared the day before worked perfectly, just as predicted. He also pointed out that once again, the charts were ahead of the news, and he's absolutely right. The recent price action wasn't solely caused by the geopolitical event we all know about. This move was coming anyway. It was just a question of what would spark it. This kind of thing happens all the time. For example, remember back in November last year, around the 20th or 21st, when Gensler announced his resignation, that news didn't have anything specifically to do with XRP, but it still played a role in the market's momentum. The moment XRP started skyrocketing in price, come on, are we really going to pretend that wasn't because of that news event? Seriously, do you think XRP wouldn't have surged at that exact moment? Sure. Maybe it could have happened at a slightly different time, but it was going to happen regardless. It's a bit of a funny situation, right? Does anyone actually disagree with that? If you do, let me know in the comments. I genuinely want to hear your perspective. Who knows, maybe we can sort it out together, but honestly, I just can't see it like any other way. Check out this update from the great Madsby. Yesterday, after XRP hit a bottom around $1.91, $1.92, depending on where you're looking, he shared some interesting insights. He pointed out that the high time frame support for XRP is holding up perfectly, with the monthly conversion line being backtested again at around $1.94. When someone asked if he's holding XRP, his response was simple and confident: "I only buy XRP." Now that's conviction. It's always fascinating to see this kind of confidence during key moments like these. Here's an update from chart analyst Greg Crypto that he shared yesterday. He mentioned that we've done the retest and posted an updated chart. According to Greg, the next move all depends on whether we break above the white range, specifically above $2.08. If we don't, there's a chance we could see the lows retested around $1.90. Now, just a quick note, Greg shared this before yesterday's action unfolded. The lows we saw yesterday hadn't happened yet, so he was still cautioning about that possibility. But here's the good news. Greg pointed out that if we close above $2.08 within the first 12 hours, along with higher time frame candle closures, it's a strong signal that the bulls are stepping in aggressively. The breakout zones are still the same, around $2.30 to $2.33. The bigger signal to watch for is $2.65, the real go-go level. We're not there yet, so let's just see how things play out. If the price dips lower by the time you're reading this, don't stress. It's not the end of the world. In fact, it's an exciting opportunity if that happens. And honestly, this kind of movement is totally normal for XRP. Huge percentage swings have been happening since the very beginning. None of them have spelled doom for XRP or its long-term potential. Nearly 100% of these moves are just the market doing its thing. They're not signs of XRP's end. I get it. This might not be what everyone wants to hear, but it's the truth. Thanks to XRP's utility, it has stayed in the top 10 coins by market cap for its entire existence. That's just incredible when you think about it. It goes to show that utility and strong fundamentals really do matter in the long run. Now let's talk about those day-to-day market swings. The short-term ups and downs, they're not about fundamentals. They're just part of the ride. And that's okay. Volatility happens. Big swings up, big swings down. But here's the good news. We're still trending upward. And guess what? The upward trend isn't over yet. To me, it just makes sense to feel confident about this. It seems so clear. I'm genuinely grateful for this opportunity because, let's be real, most people haven't even heard of XRP. And here we are in this moment recognizing its potential. Of course, investing always comes with risks. There's a chance we could be wrong and it could go to zero. I fully acknowledge that. But honestly, I don't think I'm wrong. I'd say my conviction is close to 100%. I truly believe in XRP and see it as an early leader in the crypto space. At this point, it feels obvious to me. Sure, there's always the possibility that things could change over the next few decades. Maybe it could phase out. But for now, it's clear to me that XRP already is a winner. Unless something crazy or totally unexpected happens, we're good to go. We just need more money flowing into the crypto space. And honestly, I think that's inevitable. Crypto is being embraced by more people every day, and it's only going to keep growing. As the overall crypto market expands, XRP is set to grab its share of the pie. And if that happens, it's life-changing wealth for us. XRP to the moon, right? That's the goal. Speaking of Wind Moon, there's a fun little story from David Schwartz. Ages ago, someone asked him, Wind Moon, and he jokingly said, Friday at 2 p.m. It's become a bit of an inside joke since then. But seriously, it's just a waiting game. Patience is key. Quick reminder, I'm not a financial advisor. Don't make any financial decisions based solely on what I say. It's always important to do your own research.